Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano, the editor-in-chief of that fine Devil-centric website. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. As Nick and I are trying to figure out Satan's Wallpaper. I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory or a conspiracy of this is some marketing gag that the New Jersey Devils are doing, but I don't ever remember that nickname or he was called that at all.
You gotta read pucksandpitchforks.com because we've been tracking this.
Oh, I know, but I have to pretend like I'm not an avid reader, and now that's just kind of teasing what we're talking about.
I found physical mention of this nickname as early as 2009. It was listed multiple times on multiple. Now, if you remember back in like the 2003 to 2010 range, I might be going a little too early. It might be like 2006 to 2010 range. Like Bleacher Report was the listicle capital of the world. They were doing insane numbers by just doing like fan created content. But that Bleacher Report was content back then. That's what it was. This was before.
Damn it, Nick! You know that word.
That's what it was. It was just thrown together trashola. That's what it was. I'm using the proper term because that's what it was. Just like thrown together.
What, blogs?
Things.
Troll blogs? Troll blogs? That's what I call it. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's better than the C word.
Sure. Okay. But I did find a couple of articles on, the best nicknames of all time. And Satan's Wallpaper were on two different best nicknames of all time. One was a hockey one and one was a sports one. One was in 2012. One was in 2009.
Question for you. You did some research on this. We talked.
Yeah.
Did you actually reach out to Jeopardy themselves?
I did not. I didn't reach out, but I might. Maybe I will. I think I still
take that idea. Let me know.
Yeah, because I think I actually used to know research on Jeopardy just through my journalist connections. But this is years ago, and I think my connection was through my work email at the time that I no longer am working there. So, that's not a bad idea. But here's the thing, Sam, is that so Satan's Wallpaper is on the hockey reference site, but there's a lot of obscure nicknames on the hockey reference site. I'm actually going to write that article, the 5 strangest nicknames found on Hockey Reference, based on this, just because I think it's funny. And the nicknames are going to be Devils related. So I'm going to try to look at like some of the Devils legends, just see where they're at. Like I am literally just going to randomly look up guys like John McClain. What were his nicknames? Bobby Holik. What were his nicknames? And John Madden and Sergei Brelin. And I'm just going to look up like some of the Devils legends and even some of the obscure guys like Kristaps Oliwa. Like, am I going to find any fun nicknames from Valerie Zelapukin? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just going to go around and see. I'm going to try to be like some of the older guys. Maybe I'll do 2. Like one where it's like older guys, and then I see this is great. I'm talking out through articles. I'm going to do one Devils Legends and one for the current guys. Just go through all the current nicknames that they have that you've never heard of. I wonder if little Jizzy is going to be on there. Mr. Hughes.
Oh, yeah. I'm not up with the times.
Oh, that's like it. That's his Twitter name. But anyway,
it's all right.
I have reached out to a few people within the Devils, within some people who have been reporting, and I haven't gotten an answer. I think my next stop, I'll do the Jeopardy thing. I think my next stop is going to be Larry Brooks, who we have a connection with because of the podcast, and who's been covering New York hockey forever, but also used to work for the Devils. Did he work for the Devils when they drafted Brodeur, or was he there right before that?
I think it was before then. I would have to.
It was
check
like
the
88,
media guide.
89.
Yeah, I would check the media guide. I think he was by then with the New York Post. But
Okay.
one thing. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here, but maybe I like to say that, and I don't know why I'm saying this. Maybe I'm just imagining things. I would like to say that I heard that term in EA Sports back in the late 90s. I don't know because, it's been so long ago. You're talking about, I was in college at that time
Right,
when I
like
was playing those
NHL
games.
98.
Yeah, 98.
Like that.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. They had some the obvious ones like the Finnish Flash. The announcer would, and during that time period there were some interesting nicknames and terms that they used in these games. I'm wondering if that was used in EA Sports.
Definitely possible.
Maybe I should text Bill Clement if he even remembers. Back in those days, they were making up, nicknames as they go along, some of these announcers.
Yeah, that was the thing is that, I feel like the 90s was, late 80s and 90s are, peak nickname. And you talk about it all the time about, the back of the newspaper. You wanted, get something that's, spicy enough to go on the back of the newspaper. And, I feel like is that a New York term? Because I'm thinking, the Asbury Park Press or the Star Ledger. There's no back of the newspaper for that. But, when I'm thinking of, the Post, and then the Daily News, right? They had a back of the newspaper that was the sports headline.
They're called back
Is that a
pages.
New York thing, though? Is there, because I know, the Philly Tribune isn't like that, but that might just be, it's the Times. The New York Times didn't have a back of the newspaper headline, but is that, is there an L.A. equivalent of that, or is that just a New York thing?
I think it's a New York thing because, it's back pages,
Right.
was a famous terminology. And, now that NJ.com, is now going to be NJ.com, there's no Star Ledger coming up soon. I love the print. The print was fantastic back in the day. Reading a little Richer, you go through lines of statistics. Going through, that's how I memorized players through the newspaper. Whereas it's kind of like the old school library with the catalog system, and now it's Google. But I love the card catalog system.
Oh, I didn't like the card catalog system.
Oh, I loved it.
I was
I'm old
confused
school
all
like
the
that.
time. I don't have the patience for that. I never did, even when that was
It's
the only
not the
thing.
patience. It's what you bump into looking at a subject for school. And
yeah.
You're looking.
I go in there with a plan.
You'd be looking at giraffes because you're doing a book report on giraffes, and then suddenly you run into the New York Giants or something like that because it's so, and you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, I better go to this section, the Dewey Decimal System.
Do you know what I loved? I did love is when, obviously, everybody loved the Scholastic Book Fair, but I loved the Scholastic, remember they used to have sales magazines? They used to be here's a magazine, but everything's for sale. The Scholastic used to put that out. I think it was quarterly.
They're called catalogs, Nick.
There you go, catalog.
Yeah.
So it's been so long, man. And those kind of did I know you have me on what are you 6 years my senior?
46 years old.
Oh wow, you're 10 years my senior. My goodness.
Yeah. When you were 10 years old, I was at my prime of my life as a 20-year-old going to New Jersey Devils games. Caused a lot of problems back then.
I mean, listen, what was that, 98?
98.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where I heard Satan's Wallpaper in NHL 98.
So that's, just to kind of bring this full circle, that's the oldest reference to it I found. But it was somebody referencing that's where it came from. I was searching the socials. I really dug into this, Sam. I was trying to find the answer.
You know who I need to reach out to? Doc Emmerich. He's got to know.
I was thinking that.
He's got to know.
I was thinking that. But you would think Stan would know. And I reached out to Stan Fischler.
What Stan Fischler's doing? Look, Stan Fischler is the encyclopedia of encyclopedias of hockey, who, by the way, should be going into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And again, Professional Writers Hockey Association, whatever the hell you call yourselves, I'm going to start protesting and going into your outside of your houses or where you live and holding up signs till we get this job done.
Hall of Maven.
You know what? I'm going down to Philadelphia. I'm going to go near where Frank Saravalli lives, and I'm going to start buying billboards and then try to convince him to get that movement started because, again, it's like the Pat Burns thing. It's just like it's a slam dunk. It's obvious. What are you waiting for?
I wish I knew. I wish I had.
I have my conspiracy theories.
Did you see Tom Galiti said he's never heard of it?
I don't think anybody has. It's either some marketing gimmick that the Devils marketing staff is making us think because we're talking about it and we're falling into their trap, or it really happened and nobody remembers. And I'll tell you what, kind of reminds me of the time period when Miroslav Satan played for the Buffalo Sabres and every Devils fan wanted him to be traded to be on the team, and Lou was having none of it.
So I have my research brought him up. Can I tell you the funny thing that I read?
What's that?
I think it was on WWE.com. Edge, WWE Hall of Famer Edge, in 2007, interviewed Martin Brodeur for WWE.com. Edge is famously... So, this whole New Jersey Devils fan Edge erasure, when they conveniently on ESPN made him a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, he's a Devils fan. He likes the Leafs because he's from Toronto, but he's a Devils fan. That's what he says. He said it before, that that's his team. And when somebody called him out on it, being like, why are you in this Leafs gear? He's like, the Devils are my team, but I'm from Toronto, so I root for the Leafs as well. Which is acceptable. He's a celebrity. It's fine. But Edge interviewed Martin Brodeur. And this was 2007 was around the time when, I think that's around the time when we thought Satan could come to the Devils, right?
Around that time period. It was very...
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Brodeur said, so Edge asked him, who has your number? He's like, you're the greatest of all time, but who has your number? Who's the hardest to play against? And he said he's played against Gretzky, he's played against Lemieux, he's played against the greats of the game. Lindros, Pavel Bure, so many of the greatest scorers. Michael McDonald, you can just go on. I don't think he's played against Michael Nylander. But he said the guy who's got his number is Miroslav Satan. He was on the Islanders, I think, at the time. It's every time we play him, it just seems like he's got it. He's putting in the back of the net. So it was just a weird, again, when I do my research for y'all, for these articles, I do go deep. I do rely a little bit on my own knowledge, but when I'm trying to find an answer for the people, I try. I dig into these articles. I read some interesting things, and I try to differentiate the blog as much as I possibly can. And I do it by talking about what people want to talk about, right? Like, I'll talk about a nickname that was weird on Jeopardy and everybody talked about it. We have an article up today. Marcy Rubin wrote about the fight from Brendan Dillon and how it sparked the Devils. I guess we could talk about hockey, though, right? We could talk about actual hockey stuff. What were you, so it was a weird week, right? Because, on Saturday, we had a Devils team that looked different because the Islanders punched them in the mouth, scoring those 2 goals in 2 minutes late in the third period. And the Devils, down 2 goals with 5 minutes to go, come back and win. I think Mercer scored the first one. Did Meyer get credit for the second one that got kicked in?
I don't remember.
I forget who got credit for the goal that made it 3-3. But I think it might have been Meyer. Threw it at the net. It got kicked in. And then, Jack Hughes scores in overtime, gives the Devils the win. It was a huge win, but then the next night you get shut out.
It was Nason.
Okay. The next night you get shut out by Mackenzie Blackwood. So you go from the vibes are impossibly high to people literally writing this team off. And I'll be crystal clear. I'm not saying I was writing this team off. Absolutely not. This team has too many points built in. They can kind of play around with what's coming, and they can be a little inconsistent. But when you look at the schedule, they're playing Florida twice in a row, then Tampa, and then Carolina and Washington. Those are 5. Tampa's actually, I think they're the 8th team right now, in terms of points percentage. But Tampa just took us to the woodshed 2 weeks ago. They scored 8 goals on us. And then Carolina and Washington have been impossibly good. I think they're the top 2 teams in the Metropolitan Division by points percentage. And then Florida's the defending Stanley Cup champion and possibly the best team in the Eastern Conference. So for you to lose to the Sharks the way you did, not scoring any goals, putting 44 shots, but I'm gonna be honest with you, Sam. Those shots weren't great. I think they had 11 high danger chances of those 44 shots, and some of the chances don't get included in shots. So they weren't. I call those games safe percentage games because it's not a lot of work, but it really helps the average at the safe percentage, right? And clearly the Devils were tired. Clearly the Devils just didn't have their legs. But I got to hand to the Sharks. The Sharks played such a phenomenal defensive game plan. And I usually I could be like, listen, there's an opening in this defense. There's the diamond is very famously what a lot of people use against the Devils just because they like to pass a lot. But they didn't use a diamond. It was more like an inverted square, like a rhombus. And it was really working. The Devils couldn't get underneath. The Devils couldn't get close to Blackwood. Blackwood made some good saves. I'll give him the benefit of that. But anyway, the point is that you fast forward to Tuesday, and a lot of people didn't have high expectations, right? You see some of the reactions to things when the Panthers scored the tying goal and they go 1-1. There's a couple penalties that just had people losing their minds, saying "Oh, here they come! Here comes the Panthers! It's over! It's over! It's over!" And then the Devils, the fight happened. The Devils were not winning on the periphery. They weren't winning on the eye test. They weren't winning the analytics. They weren't winning the game in any other way besides being tied on the scoreboard. The fight happens, and something turned to the Devils. I think they outshot the Panthers 9-1 after that. Really turned on the Jets. They ended up winning the game 4-1. They just and I got to give it to the Devils because Florida played a good game. They were all over this team, and the Devils made the right pass almost every time. They made the right move almost every time. Usually when excuse me, the MO to beat the Devils Just pressure him. It's the same thing with like Tom Brady. Like pressure him, he's going to make a mistake. When you pressure the Devils, like they have so much movement in it, and because of that, sometimes a nary pass turns into a breakaway. Sometimes you get a guy who doesn't win a board battle. Sometimes you get a guy who throws it the wrong place, takes a penalty. They weren't doing that. They weren't making mistakes. So I kind of handed to Sheldon Keefe. I got handed to this team because they really played almost a perfect game, and it led to a 4-1 victory. Post be darned, they played a great game.
Well, I'll tell you, the Markstrom goaltending combined with the Beefalytics and the defense gave the Devils a chance to win the game because they withstood, and a little bit of luck there, but they withstood the onslaught from the Florida Panthers. But once the Devils got going, and it just bought them some time, once the Devils got going, now granted, I believe the Devils had a 1-0 lead, but just Florida was just peppering shots on Markstrom. But once they got going, the New Jersey Devils, and then finally taking the lead, they kept pressing. And that Paul Cotter goal, I mean, that was just a sweet goal. It was just like, boom, done. And then Palat made himself useful and got the ending the game really with the empty netter. Wimpy, right. Thank you. He yells 5 minutes to go. That's what he yells at the games. 5 minutes to go. Yeah.
5 minutes.
No. He goes, 5 minutes to go. And then he usually yells some drunken thing afterwards.
Okay. We love a drunken thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Wimpy, here's to a drunken thing.
Yes. And thank you for the super chat, Wimpy. We survive
we love that, Wimpy.
Yeah, we survive on super chats on this fine podcast, which, by the way, I have to plug in the middle of it, that sign up to joinourcrew.com because we are going down to Florida, in Tampa, somewhere outside of Amalie Arena, at a bar somewhere, and we are going to broadcast live, Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. Short Sky and I, we're flying that mission. It's going to be good.
That's good. I'm not going because, well,
you moved up to Jersey.
Yeah, it's part of it. I actually have to I have to go to their schedule and figure out which games I'm going to because, I gotta make sure that you're in the building to do a podcast.
Do you know which game I'm looking forward to? And I got to reach out to Cam Jansen. It's the St. Louis Devils game on the 27th, the day before Thanksgiving, where everybody gets all liquored up. And at American Whiskey, I got to talk to Frank. We got to have chicken tenders night. Because the last time we had a game at home before Thanksgiving, it was utter chaos because Justin Kia and the NHL referees that were officiating that night sucked.
That was...
It was awful. To this day, I'm still pissed off to this day. If I was a rich guy, I would sue because I'm that pissed. Just because I can.
So, I actually wrote, and again, this is I try to go to the mind of the fan when I write my articles. I wrote an analysis of each overturned goal. There's 3. And the irony of it, I don't know if irony is the right word, but the anecdote of it is that I believe each goal was reversed for a different reason. I think one was a kick, one was goaltender interference, and one was something else. But the analysis is that each overturned goal was on the periphery. And usually when you're on the
you're
periphery,
using complicated words, Nick. What the
it was
heck
on the
edge?
it was at the very edge.
Okay.
It was an either or call.
Sorry,
right?
I'm one of the uneducated.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
It could go either way. It was not black and white. It was very much in the gray area.
Yep.
And usually you stick to the call on the ice. And I'm trying to remember. I think the call on the ice was goal for 2 of the 3. But all 3 ended up not being goals. That ended what, a 14-game win streak?
13, I believe.
So that would have been 14.
I think the streak should have been an NHL record of like 21. Had it not been.
Well, because they won 6 in a row after that, right?
Yeah, something like that. Or 19. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, that changed the course of history. It pisses me off to this day. I never forgot the name Justin Kia. You know. Like, when they were announcing and the presentation of these penalties or calling back, they were so unprepared that it wasn't really communicated out to the fans very well, and it had suspicions, and the fans were not buying the BS.
Yeah.
You know. Did you know, Nick, speaking of replay and calling goals back, if my memory serves me correct, 2 of my teams are the reason why there's instant replay in their respective leagues. The New Jersey Devils, I believe, what tipped it over to finally getting instant replay to look at goals was, I believe, Laurie Boschman. And Wimpy, help me out here if you remember this. I think it was Laurie Boschman of the New Jersey Devils shot the puck, or was it Pat Conacher? One of the two, and it went through the net. But because there was no replay back in the day, the next year they used it, and the New York Rangers manipulated and took advantage of that new technology, and and like if you had a skate lace in the crease, no goal call back technically. Like if you had a shadow in the crease, they did that to the Devils in a playoff series where I think the Devils had 8 goals called back.
Geez.
Yeah, this is 97, right? And then my Penn State Nittany Lions, I believe in 2005. They should have been undefeated, but against Michigan, there was one play, and I remember Joe Paterno even saying it, this is why we need replay, and I forgot what the play was. I just remember that that was that one loss, which cost them the national championship, or at least 2 play, because back in those days there was no playoff system, and the next year they have instant replay, and then Penn State got screwed by Ohio State that next year, because now you have instant replay. It's like, oh, now we get screwed. We could have used it the year before, but anyway.
Can I point one thing out real quick?
What's that?
This is so random. So I was just looking at the schedule because I was like, oh, the Devils have 19 games, while like the Rangers have 14, the Hurricanes have 14. Most teams are like between that 14 and 16 range, while the Devils have 19 because of the European games. And because the schedule hasn't slowed down. Actually, I'm curious of how many Buffalo has played. But anyway, the Devils have played 19 games. Buffalo's played 16. The schedule makers have never been nice to the New Jersey Devils. But I've always been like, oh, it's just kind of happenstance. They just happen to be the team with the most back-to-backs last year, and I think they had the most by like 2 or 3. I think they had 19 last year, and like the next team was like 16 or 17. But here's how I know the schedule makers hate the New Jersey Devils. They have a game on December 31st, New Year's Eve, at 8 p.m. in California. So they have to have New Year's, right? They're not even able to celebrate because they have to go to L.A. the next day and play at 6 p.m. the next day. So not only is it a back-to-back, but it's 2 hours earlier than the night before. And there's New Year's Eve to New Year's Day in between. So there's no celebrating. Don't celebrate that New Year.
Which, by the way, Scotty, a SiriusXM Liquid Metal on Devils After Dark will probably be at those games live on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
You're making Scotty work that late?
I am.
What if Scotty wants to party?
You know what? Scotty made a commitment to you, the fans, to get this thing done. And if he doesn't, there's a price to pay. Because I heard Shorts Guy is going to take over his position if that happens. A kind of Wally Pip story. But the
take
one
his position at SiriusXM?
No, Devils After Dark.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say the biggest pet peeve is December 23rd at 1 p.m. on a Monday. Columbus Day, I can understand why you have a 1 p.m. matinee game against the Utah Hockey Club. But it's Devils Rangers, 1 p.m. on a Monday. Are you nuts? Yeah. New Jersey Devils, fight this. Fight this. Here I am, one of the biggest fans of this team, and good luck trying to get out of work for Devils Rangers 1 p.m., which means I got to get there at 10 a.m., which is not going to happen. And the favorite games, and I've been to Devils Rangers December 23rd game back in, 2002. Wimpy might have been there when my friend's beer, the bottom fell out because the cup was so cheap and just poured on some poor lady's head. And the Ranger fans were not happy, and we almost got killed that night. But that was a December 23rd game, and it was electric. It's a holly jolly atmosphere. It's Festivus. I love December 23rd games, but not at 1 p.m., you dolts. That's all I have to say.
It's a lot.
Like, change it to 7 p.m.
Yeah, I don't know. I might go to that game though.
Oh, Wimpy. By the way, sorry. He says 1991 Patrick Division playoffs. Game 6, Bill McCreary ruled that Laurie Boschman kicked that would be the tying goal in. The stick blade was over a skate, and it should have counted. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was the puck through the net. Maybe that was another incident as well. But yeah, but it was the New Jersey Devils.
I do remember the puck through the net.
Yeah, the New Jersey Devils got hosed, and that's why replay. But it doesn't help us now. You know, it's just like it's very rare that leagues admit mistakes. But do you remember in 2002 when the Giants were playing San Francisco in the playoffs and they had their special teams issue, but they should have replayed that down, but the referees forgot that he was an eligible receiver. You know, you remember that?
I don't remember this.
Oh, yeah.
This is very obscure, but yeah, no, I don't remember this.
Oh, no, it's a big deal, and the NFL actually apologized because the refs did not know the rules correctly. It's very rare that leagues acknowledge the mistake, but they don't. But what are you going to do? You can't go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saying sorry is nice, but it doesn't help the situation.
And this is random, and we can end on this too because it's just random. Are you Do you want the Devils players to make the respective teams for the Four Nations Cup? I'm thinking of this because I'm looking at the schedule, and the Devils have a pretty, like, the whole schedule's heinous. They don't really have any breaks. They don't have a lot of practice time, like, just looking at how the schedule works out. And then you see this, 11-day break for the Four Nations Cup. But do you want Jack Hughes to miss that? Do you want Nico? Well, I don't think Heischer's eligible. But, like, do you want, like, Dougie Hamilton to miss that? Do you want Sweden's in it, right? It's Sweden, Canada, the U.S.
Yeah,
and...
you know what? Number one, I'm sure it's a good time and people want it, but to me, this is just too gimmicky. I don't know. I'm turned off by all this. I know hockey's always in a bad spot when the Olympics come around and international play. But, like, honestly, like, where's Russia? You know
where Russia is.
Well, I know where Russia is. I get all the geopolitical, that goes with it. But to me,
Finland is the fourth team, by the way.
Yeah. But I don't know. I have no. It's in Boston, right?
Oh, I have no idea. I haven't thought that
Max,
much about it.
answer the question in the YouTube Live. Is it in Boston? I thought it was. Or I'm thinking about the Beanpot tournament. I don't know. But
I mean, yeah. But so I guess so is your answer like you don't want Jack Hughes playing in it? You
I don't want anybody. I don't want risk of injury.
Right.
Like Edwin Diaz.
So my best example for why I'm like on the fence, and like usually I'm like, yeah, go get the experience, but like this is usually for like prospects. But my go-to example was Arn Talvady. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but he was a former Devils prospect. So much talent this kid had. He looked like what we think of Arseny Gritsik now, the Russian sniper. He looked like he could score. He looked like he could pass. He looked like he could play offense. He had great instincts. And then in the championship game, I think he was Finnish. No, that's not right. Oh man, his country is escaping me right now. But it was one of the European countries. He blew out his knee in the championship game for the World Juniors, and he was having a good, like, you probably remember this guy because he was playing well for Penn State hockey. Came over to the U.S. to get used to the U.S. style at Penn State and was on his way to being a good Devils player. Blew out his knee, and like that kid, I don't know what happened to the recovery. Never the same guy. Lost the explosiveness, looked mediocre in college compared to what we thought he was going to be. Signed with the Devils, was like a fourth-line guy with Binghamton and Utica, and then went back to, I think it was Finland. Maybe, I don't know. Now it's bothering me now. But
I like to say Finland.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Because I know you're the Penn State guy.
Well,
so
Arne Talavidi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's always my, like, the worst case scenario can happen. You can ruin someone's career at one of these tournaments. But
I mean,
you're going to be hard pressed.
I'm always anxious. Like, remember Mini Jack Hughes? I'm like, kid, don't trip over my franchise player.
Right, and like to your point, we see Jack Hughes doing all this like social media stuff, all these like videos for NHL 25 for EA Sports.
It's a distraction, man.
Doing a thing for ESPN. They pull this kid in a lot of different directions, and I want to point out the interview that Rachel Herzog did with him. And, like, he just didn't answer the questions. Like, literally, like, you could say, what was your favorite fruit? He's like, we had a really good team game out there. And you could ask him, like, what was your favorite part about this game? And he'd say banana. Like, he just knew what his answers were before the questions were even given to him. He was going to say these things, And then, like, I don't know how, like, I know you do Devils After Dark. I don't know if you watch the post game, but, like, they go and they sign the camera for the post game. They do something with the glass. I don't know if they auction it off or whatever. But they sign the front of the camera. They do something with the glass. This kid, that marker didn't touch the camera. He did one of these. And then moved on. There was nothing. There was no ink on that camera. So it's funny that he's so engaging in these like large scale things, but he's so disengaging when it's Devils content. It's kind of funny.
Well, it's because
Sorry, I missed that one. That one was my fault. I got
Devils related. Yeah. That's all you had to say. Jeez,
I avoided it so much in that diatribe, and
you have to, Nick, because I'm going to tell you, it makes your brain think, and you actually sound more intelligent. Because I mean, let me tell you something.
I just use the word diatribe. Get out of here.
Yeah, but you use a lot of complicated words, but on the internet when people are a bunch of phonies. Oh, I'm a content creator. I create content, good content. Blah 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 blah. No, you don't. So anyway, that's how I feel. I'm a rebel.
I'm ready for plugs.
Yeah, because I got to plug away, but you go first.
Puckspitchworks.com. We have so many articles up right now. It's Jenny Streeter just did a story that I think you'll like, Sam, about talking about why Jack Hughes needs to be more aggressive and how that's going to impact his game. Jack just wrote a story on why Jack Hughes is the reason that the Devils are winning and not goaltending or defense. Is that Jack Hughes is going to drive this team to the next era. We have another Jack Hughes article from. The names are escaping me. I apologize. We have a lot of writers right now, but I wrote the article on the Brodeur nickname. If you want to see all of my research, I put it there. I'm going to continue to update that article when people start to answer me when I get new research. I've been writing a lot. But that's go to puckspitchworks.com. You go to fansided.com. We're changing it a little bit about how the articles I write for Fansided, but it'll still be the same thought process. I just wrote one, Sam, on the 30 or every baseball team's biggest decision this offseason. I try to get really creative with it, but that's up on fansided.com right now.
Great. Any more plugs?
What?
Any more plugs?
No, you're good.
Okay. Just remember, we're going to be down in Tampa this Saturday, and we will do an email.
Say hi to Trey. Trey Matthew will be down there.
Oh, I got to reach out to him. Trey. He's doing great work. I mean, some of the interviews that was coming out of Sunrise yesterday. Also, congratulations to Trey. He's belated. Should have said this a while ago. Working with the Everglades. Great organization in Southwest Florida near Fort Myers. Great job, Trey. Also, I didn't even tell you, Nick, because I've been so secretive, but it was 3 years in the making. My good friend and good friend of the podcast, Bruce Zeman, and I, talking NHL, new podcast on the network called At the Point, because I'm at the point right now that I got to make a point. I got to make an opinion. But anything around the NHL, and it's a little Devil-centric because towards the end we talk Devils hockey because tomorrow it's going to be a triple header Happy Devils Thursday with At the Point, mid-afternoon, game day live before the Devils take on the Florida Panthers, and Devils After Dark after the game before I head off to Florida Friday morning with the infamous Mrs. Wu. We're traveling first class, by the way.
Wow.
Yes.
Fancy.
Yeah. So there we go. You're going to have a triple header Thursday as the Let's Go Devils podcast continued. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. The Super Chats. Thank you, Wimpy. Wimpy, you're a good friend. I should send you a text. Also, Max, welcome back. Brooke Amanda, she was under the weather. I see Tom. I see Steve Engel. I see Joseph Lanham. Dubs is like, and all you folks in the YouTube Live and Facebook Live. David Decker of Town Toyota, Route 46, beautiful Ledgewood, New Jersey. If you're going to buy a Toyota, tell them Sam Wu and Nick Villano sent you. So that's all my plugs.
I might be looking at a Highlander. Who knows?
Hey, get it from David Decker. Because
I'll give him a call. Well,
yeah, because let me tell you my story during COVID when there was no inventory and the MSRP was like $20,000 over. David Decker had this beautiful Toyota on the showroom floor that my wife wanted, and the vultures were circling the first 25 minutes to put an offer, and David Decker walks in on his day off, and he pulls the for sale sign and puts his soul, and he said, yo, it's yours. Now put on a deposit, and then come visit me tomorrow. We'll make a deal. Just like that. David Decker, I'll never forget when you hooked up Shorts Guy and hooked up Michael Hay with not one, two, but 4 Toyotas at Town Toyota, Route 46 in Ledgewood, New Jersey. David Decker, big Devils fan. Tell him Sam Wu and Nick Villano sent you. Well, Nick, I'll see you later. Till next time, let's go Devils.